Duty before pleasure. That line alone will offend most men today, not because it is wrong, but because it exposes them. Pleasure has become their commander. They don't live by mission, they live by mood. They don't wake up asking what must be done. They wake up asking what feels good, and then they wonder why they feel weak, why they feel anxious, why they feel behind, and why their life has no weight. A man without duty is a man without direction, and a man without direction will always drift toward pleasure, because pleasure is easy. Pleasure requires no courage, no patience, no sacrifice, no strength. It's the path of least resistance. It is the river that carries weak men downstream, while they call it living. Duty is different. Duty is the spine. Duty is the anchor. Duty is the thing you do when you don't want to. Duty is the reason you get up early. It is the reason you train when you're tired. It is the reason you keep your word when it costs you. It is the reason you stay calm when everything inside you wants to react. Duty is what makes a man reliable. Pleasure has its place, but pleasure is a reward, not a ruler. When pleasure becomes the ruler, your life becomes small. You start chasing comfort like an addict chases a fix. You start avoiding hard conversations. You start delaying work. You start skipping training. You start negotiating with weakness. You start making excuses sound intelligent, and all of it leads to the same outcome. A man who cannot be trusted, even by himself. Most men don't see the trap because the trap is soft. It doesn't look like a prison at first. It looks like convenience. It looks like entertainment. It looks like relaxing. It looks like, I deserve this. But the bill arrives slowly. It arrives as lost time, as lost strength, as lost opportunities, as lost self-respect. And then, one day, you look back and realize you have been living like a boy, not because you lacked potential, but because you chose pleasure over duty 1,000 times. Men are not built for endless comfort. Comfort makes you dull. Comfort makes you weak. Comfort makes you sensitive to life. A man who lives for comfort starts treating normal pressure like a crisis. He becomes reactive. He becomes moody. He becomes lazy. And when responsibility comes, he resents it. He resents duty because duty threatens his pleasure. But duty is not the enemy. Duty is what makes you a man. Duty is what gives life meaning. You do not find meaning by chasing pleasure. Pleasure gives a short high and a long emptiness. Meaning comes from carrying weight, from responsibility, from sacrifice, from building. That is why men who live for pleasure feel hollow even when they get what they want. They are full of stimulation, but empty of purpose. A man who chooses duty before pleasure is not miserable. He is free, because he is not owned by cravings. He is not owned by moods. He is not owned by the need for constant relief. He can endure, he can focus, he can build, he can lead, he can be calm under pressure. That is freedom. Freedom is not doing what you want. Freedom is being able to refuse what you want. Look at the men you respect most, the men you would trust with your life. They are not men who chase pleasure. They are men who show up, men who are consistent, men who are disciplined, men who can be counted on. That reliability does not come from talent. It comes from duty. It comes from a code that does not bend every time the body wants comfort. And here is the truth most men avoid. You cannot have both. Not at the beginning. Not while you are building. You cannot live like a warrior and indulge like a child. You cannot build a strong body while living for junk. You cannot build a strong mind while living on distraction. You cannot build a strong life while chasing easy pleasure every time you feel bored or stressed. The man who chooses pleasure first will always be behind. The man who chooses duty first will eventually have earned pleasure without losing himself. Duty is what makes you dangerous in the right way. Because duty turns your energy into structure. It turns your time into results. It turns your suffering into strength. It turns your discipline into identity. When a man is guided by duty, he does not need motivation. He has law. He moves even when he doesn't feel like moving. He executes even when he doesn't feel like executing. That is how men win. Pleasure will always be available. The world is overflowing with it. Endless food, endless entertainment, endless distraction, endless temptation. Pleasure is cheap. That is why it is dangerous. Cheap pleasure steals expensive things: your future, your reputation, your self-respect, your family, your legacy. Duty protects those things. Duty is the guard at the gate. Now listen carefully. Duty is not only about work. Duty is about standards. It is about the kind of man you are when nobody is watching. It is about your word. It is about your discipline. It is about the way you treat your body. It is about the way you handle stress. It is about the way you treat women. It is about the way you speak to people. It is about the way you respond when you are tired and tempted to be lazy. Duty is the quiet commitment to what is right, regardless of what feels good. A man who lives by duty does not need constant entertainment because his life has meaning. He does not need constant pleasure because he is building something real. His work gives him pride. His training gives him confidence. His structure gives him calm. His standards give him self-respect. His family feels safe because they know he will not collapse under pressure. A man who lives by pleasure, on the other hand, becomes unpredictable. Some days he is motivated, some days he is weak, some days he is disciplined, some days he indulges. He is unstable, and unstable men create unstable homes. Unstable men create unstable relationships. Unstable men create unstable results. Because they are ruled by emotion, not by duty. You want to be a man worth following. Then your life must be governed. You cannot be a man of sometimes disciplined, sometimes strong, sometimes reliable, sometimes honest. That is not masculinity. That is immaturity. A man is consistent. He is stable. He is predictable in the right way. His word means something. His standards mean something. That consistency comes from duty, and you will be tested. Every day, you will be tested when the alarm rings and your body begs for more sleep. Duty says, get up. Pleasure says, stay. The man you become is decided right there. You will be tested when you are stressed and you want to escape. Duty says, handle it. Pleasure says, numb it. The man you become is decided right there. You will be tested when the training is hard and your body wants to quit. Duty says, endure. Pleasure says, stop. The man you become is decided right there. You will be tested when temptation calls and nobody would know. Duty says no. Pleasure says yes. The man you become is decided right there. This is why duty matters. It is constant training. It forges your identity daily. You either become a man who obeys duty or a man who obeys craving. And craving will never lead you to greatness. Some men think duty makes life dry. They think it makes you rigid. They think it makes you miss out. They are wrong. Duty does not remove joy. Duty creates the conditions for real joy. Real joy is not a quick dopamine hit. Real joy is pride, peace, respect, strength, the feeling of being solid, the feeling of being reliable, the feeling of knowing you can handle life. Pleasure cannot give you that. Pleasure is borrowed happiness. Duty builds earned happiness. When you choose duty first, pleasure becomes cleaner. You can enjoy rest without guilt. You can enjoy food without being owned by it. You can enjoy time with your wife without your mind being distracted. You can enjoy small pleasures because they are not your master. That is how a free man enjoys pleasure, not by chasing it, but by earning it. Now let's talk about duty in the modern world. Most men are surrounded by temptation all day, a phone in their pocket, a screen in every room, food everywhere, entertainment everywhere. The modern world is a marketplace of dopamine, and it is designed to weaken you. Not because it hates you personally, but because weak men are profitable. A disciplined man buys less nonsense. A disciplined man is harder to manipulate. A disciplined man does not need the world's distractions to feel alive. So the world tries to train you to be the opposite. That means you cannot accidentally become disciplined. You must choose it. You must build barriers. You must build structure. You must build a fortress. You must make duty easier and pleasure harder. You must remove triggers. You must reduce noise. You must plan your day. You must protect your mornings. You must protect your nights. If you live like a man with no structure, you will be invaded by pleasure constantly. Duty is a daily choice. It is not a personality type. It is not something you wait to feel. It is something you do, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes, because you are training your brain and nervous system to obey law instead of craving. You want a simple way to understand this. Think of a wolf versus a dog. The dog lives for treats. The dog is trained to obey reward. The dog is always looking for the next pleasure. The wolf survives because it endures hunger, cold, pain, and long silence. The wolf moves with purpose. The wolf does not need constant reward to keep going. That is the difference between a man who lives for pleasure and a man who lives for duty. Men were not built to be pets. Men were built to be wolves, not violent, not reckless, but capable, enduring, disciplined, purposeful. Now, I'm going to bring this down to your daily life. You don't need to become extreme. You need to become consistent. The mistake men make is they try to transform overnight. They build a fantasy routine, then they fail, then they quit. That is not duty. Duty is the minimum standard you obey every day, the base code you follow even when life is hard. Duty looks like training even if it's only 30 minutes. Duty looks like doing the work block before entertainment. Duty looks like eating clean most days. Duty looks like sleep on time. Duty looks like keeping your word. Duty looks like controlling appetite and impulse. Duty looks like taking care of your responsibilities before you reward yourself. And yes, reward matters, but reward must follow duty, not replace it. Reward should be a controlled tool, not a habit of escape. The man who rewards himself before he earns it trains weakness. He teaches his brain, you get pleasure without effort. That is poison. That creates a man who cannot do hard things without bribing himself. That is not strength. That is dependency. A warrior does not bribe himself to do what must be done. He does what must be done because it must be done. Now, some men will hear this and think it's harsh. Good. Masculinity is not meant to be soft. Masculinity is meant to be stable. A stable man can love deeply because he is not unstable. A stable man can protect because he is not fragile. A stable man can lead because he is not reactive. Stability is built by duty. So the question is simple. Are you going to live as a man of duty or a man of pleasure? Because you can't pretend your choices don't matter. Your choices build you. They build your future. They build your reputation. They build your marriage. They build your children. They build your legacy. If you choose pleasure every day, you are writing a legacy of weakness. Not a dramatic weakness, a quiet weakness, the kind that looks normal, the kind that everyone does, the kind that ruins men slowly. If you choose duty every day, you are writing a legacy of strength. Strength with restraint, strength with honor, strength with discipline. That legacy will be felt by your wife, your children, your brothers, and the men who come after you. Now listen to this carefully. Duty is love. Duty is love, expressed through action. A man who says he loves his wife, but won't lead, won't provide stability, won't control himself, is not loving. He is feeling. A man who says he loves his future children, but refuses to build a strong body, a strong mind, and a strong life, is not loving. He is dreaming. Love without duty is emotion. Duty turns love into protection. Duty turns love into stability. Duty turns love into legacy. This is why duty must come first, because when duty comes first, everything else becomes cleaner. Pleasure becomes earned. Rest becomes deserved. Joy becomes real. Relationships become stable. Life becomes meaningful. And the best part, your self-respect returns. Because self-respect is what happens when your actions match your standards. Most men don't respect themselves because they keep betraying themselves. They promise they'll train, then they don't. They promise they'll stop wasting time, then they don't. They promise they'll control their appetites, then they don't. They promise they'll build their life, then they don't. Each broken promise kills self-respect, and without self-respect, a man becomes needy, anxious, and weak. Duty restores it, one day at a time, one early morning at a time, one clean no at a time, one completed task at a time, one endured discomfort at a time. And once you have self-respect, you don't need external validation. You don't need to posture. You don't need to pretend. You walk calmer because you know you are solid. So if you want a life worth living, if you want a body worth having, if you want a marriage worth protecting, if you want a legacy worth leaving, then you live by this law, duty before pleasure. Not because you hate pleasure, because you respect yourself, because you respect the people who will depend on you, because you understand the cost of weakness, because you want to be the kind of man who does not fold when life gets heavy. And life will get heavy. So build now. Choose duty today, then choose it again tomorrow, until it becomes you. That is the warrior's code.